What is up, people? So the Sadhguru Steven Pinker conversation is finally out. The video has come out on Sadhguru's channel. I told you that the moment the video was out, you'd get my reaction. So this video came out yesterday. It's a freaking 2-hour video. I'm not gonna watch and react to the whole thing here. I'm gonna listen to it and over time do my reaction to specific sections. If you feel I've taken something out of context, of course, you can go and watch the video. And yeah, that's about it. By the way, I'll just as a preface to this video, we all know who Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev is. Steven Pinker is a cognitive scientist, as you can see in the description here. But on top of that, he is someone who is extremely rational. He has even written a book on rationality, which I've read, and I can vouch for his rationality here. And obviously, Sadhguru is gonna try and bullshit him. Let's see what happens. He is someone who can actually see through Sadhguru's bullshit, but either way, I'll reserve all my judgment. Watch the whole video and then do the rest of the reaction. Maybe I'll react to specific segments over here, but yeah, let's go. Okay, I'm recording this in parts as I watch each part, and guys, Steven Pinker does not disappoint. Just watch the initial exchange.
So before we decided what should we talk about, and after going through Dr. Pinker's profile, we went back and forth on what title we should keep. So Dr. Pinker chose, is consciousness a miracle? We were giving him consciousness a miracle. So
They said we were giving him consciousness a miracle. That is a God of the gaps argument. We don't fully understand consciousness, and we are trying to say that because we don't understand it, it's a miracle. And miracle is some divine intervention. That's what they always try to mean by it. That's a title they gave Steven Pinker, and Steven Pinker said, no, is consciousness a miracle is a better title. And let's see what Steven Pinker says for this.
just put a question mark on that. And you tweeted last night, so I would love to hear from you what, in your view, consciousness means and why the question mark.
Yeah, some of you may have heard of Betteridge's law of headlines, which is that in a newspaper or magazine, any headline that begins with a question mark has the answer no. And I think that applies to at least to my opinion of the resolution for today, the question, is consciousness a miracle? No.
It sounds so beautiful. Oh my God, I cannot contain my excitement. I'm sorry. Got all high-pitched, got all excited. But that is a straight slap in the face of anyone who calls consciousness a miracle. Any Sadhguru type. But yeah, I just had to make a video right there. And yeah, let's keep watching.
Is consciousness a miracle? No, and here's why. Consciousness consists of patterns of activity in the brain. We can be a bit more specific, but I won't go into detail, but there's reason to think that it can be specified as rhythmic, synchronized patterns of activity, perhaps in the gamma range or higher, involving loops between the thalamus, prefrontal cortex, parietal cortex, and other brain regions.
Cool. That is a straight up slap in the face of anyone who wants to claim consciousness is a miracle. And I can already see it, guys. The Sadhguru types are gonna come and say, hey, Sadhguru had a conversation with Steven Pinker. Why not considering that? Steven Pinker literally negated what Sadhguru had to say. So, it is the next day, as you can see, change of shirt. But I happened to watch that whole conversation, and it was just hilarious to say the least. What Sadhguru was doing throughout that whole conversation was using the word miracle in a more metaphorical sense, but Steven Pinker would call that out every single time he did that. He'd say politely that using the word miracle in this context is not what we mean by miracle. And you can tell right now that's an equivocation fallacy. But what Sadhguru would do is say something like, one way of looking at it is, And then he'll say a flower is a miracle. You put a seed in the ground and a flower grows out of it. That's a miracle. A mother gets pregnant and a baby comes out of her. That's a miracle. Some things like that.
What is a miracle? If you put filth in the soil, it becomes a miracle. If you put a piece of bread into this becomes a complex human body. This is a miracle. This is one way of looking at it.
The problem with that is, he says it's something like one way of looking at it is, and then he says everything about miracles and says that life is a miracle and the profoundness of experience is what we should focus on in life because that's a miracle, that's divine, that's all that bullshit. Constantly, he will put forth an idea of, hey, there are miracles, there are things that science can't explain. But when you press him on what he's saying, his defense will be that, hey, this is just one way of looking at it. So putting forth an idea that is extreme, but when people try to call it out, defending it by making a more easily defensible position of this is just one way of looking at it, that is called a Mott and Bailey fallacy. Back in the medieval ages, back in the time of wars and stuff, had a moat from which you could attack more easily. It's harder to defend, but when it came time to defend, when the enemy was closer, they'll retreat to the bailey, which was easier to defend. So he would constantly employ this Mott and Bailey fallacy throughout. Put forth a position that's very extreme, harder to defend, but when someone called it out, retreat to a position that's easier to defend and pretend that those two are the same. That's a Mott and Bailey fallacy. But on the whole talk, I had a couple of timestamps that I noted down, and we'll just watch just that and comment on that.
There are dimensions of life which are not physical in nature. What is not physical in nature, neither can you define nor describe nor perceive through five senses. Right now, everything that we know is through five senses.
Yeah, the problem is Sadhguru claims that he knows things like these. Normal people can't perceive any of these, but Sadhguru apparently knows all this.
What is wrong with five senses? Nothing wrong. It is just that for different creatures, these senses are different. What is light for you, for a whole lot of creatures, it is darkness. What is darkness for you is light for them. Because the sense organs are designed as it is necessary for our survival process. The fundamental existence of who we are, is it only because of brain-derived neurological activity or electrical makeup of things? That would be believing in a miracle. That's not a miracle, that is a simple process which is creating fantastic things for us, no question. Fantastic things, it is done.
Don't you think all this is a word salad? Like, he's not really making any sense. There are people who will say in the comments that he's now making sense to you, he's making sense to us. Go ahead and tell me what that sense he made to you is. Right there in the comments, just put down there what sense he made.
These spectacular experiences, the brain activity has actually come down, not gone up, as everybody would have believed. So, there are states. See, one important thing is, we should not conclude, especially science should never conclude what we do not know cannot exist. That'll not be a good thing to do.
What?
Yes, but nor should we make up stuff for which we have no reason to believe it exists.
Perfect response, perfect response. That's the thing. There are things that have not been observed, studied. Nobody says it doesn't exist. At the same time, nobody should say it does exist and we know what it is. Or nobody should assume that they know what it is. Nobody should go around telling people we know what it is and we'll teach you. Don't do that shit. That's a scam. That's literally a scam. If science can't learn what it is, tell me how you learned what it is.
You can close your eyes and do japa, tapa, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, shunya, samyama. Well, these are all distinct states which are taught and transmitted in a systematic way, not just some some mumbo-jumbo way that I try to redefine the word miracle, but you're sticking to the religious form of miracle. I'm not going there, let's leave that word. Let's say magical experiences. Because magic…
How is that any better? How is magical any better?
can still be explained, but it's still magical in our experience, leaving that…
How can magic be explained? Do you mean a trick? Do you mean a sleight of hand? That can be explained, but magical is probably not the right word either.
aside. We can clearly transmit these aspects distinctly from one to the other. If they come to a dharana initiation, we will do only dharana. If they come to dhyana, we'll do only dhyana. If they come…
Wait, what do you mean transmit between these two places? Do you mean distinct states of being and you can transmit between them? Isn't that an extraordinary claim? What evidence are you providing for that?
Come to samyama, we do only samyama. Distinctly different states that a human being can experience. Is all this about electrical activity? Someday, I think, the scientists must invest enough time to study these things, not with the attitude of proving or disproving it, but just by looking at it. Just simply looking at it without making conclusions, because conclusions are coming from what present things that we know, what data that we have. The very fundamental of science is that whatever we know right now is not everything. That is the fundamental of science we are seeking.
If you know that that is the fundamental of science, why do you make that statement about, science concludes what it doesn't know doesn't exist? Why do you make that statement if you know this about science? Yeah, man, overall, what I'd say is, I don't understand how Sadhguru added to the conversation at all. Steven Pinker clearly gave us a lot of insight about where the state of research is. And Sadhguru tried to confuse the whole thing by, equating the word consciousness with the word miracle. And Steven Pinker was obviously trying to correct Sadhguru's mistakes, but obviously in a way that is not offensive and is respectful. I'm not sure he did a very effective job of that. The people listening probably took away, what their own biases are, because there was Sadhguru there to confirm all that. This conference only happened because it was organized by Sadhguru and his team, I think. It's the Sadhguru Center for a Conscious Planet at Harvard, moderated by Dr. Balasubramaniam. This guy is going around the world and making his presence known in many places. I'm not sure enough people see through it, but yeah, that's what I have to say on this. I'll see you in the next one.